Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. There we go. Excellent connection. We're good. We're live. We're here. Hello. How are you all today? How are you all today? I will give it a minute. Make sure more people get in here before we get going. Good stuff to talk about today. No doubt about that. Give me 1 sec. I need to look at something. I'll be right back. Okay, we're here. All right. I hope you are all well. I hope you are all good today. Hope everybody is having a decent week. Yep. Okay. Yeah, let's get into it. I want to cover a lot today. Where are we? What do I want to cover? What do I have? What do I have? Sorry. Ready. Cool. Yeah, so what are we going to do? Here we're going to do. Well, hold on a second. Oh. Got it. That was weird. What an interesting message. Okay. Distracted. Always distracted. Okay, let's start. So, yes, what do I want to talk about today? I want to talk about... Okay, yeah, let's talk about it. All right, we're going to talk about the defenders, to talk about center backs, Ignacio, Braithwaite, Todibo, Yoro, all of that. Talk about the midfielders. I want to talk about João Neves. João Neves, because I think there's some interesting things to talk about with some of what has come out, as well Duncan Castle's podcast with a Portuguese journalist from Record, and some interesting things on a midfield. I want to talk about the wage structure that United are working towards now, and why we might miss out on some people, whether it's good or bad. If the mic is low, let me know. I will eat it again like last time. I don't know why. It's never low on the videos. We'll talk about all that. What else? What else can we talk about? The review, obviously. Bruno. Yeah, all of that kind of stuff. No doubt. Okay. So let's play our little intro video. It's not a new one today. There is a new one that I'm missing that I should be doing, but not a new one today. And then we'll get started, okay?
Someone cooked here.
Okay. Weird question there. What kind of dip do you use? I don't use dip. I haven't used tobacco in a long time. If that's what you're talking about. I haven't used any tobacco in a long time. It's bad for you. Very addictive. Not healthy. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Defense. Let's talk about defense. Let's talk about the defense. I don't know. Dip dip people use different things here. Yeah, ask myself to stick or twist. Oh, sure, I'll give you my opinions. I'll give you all of my opinions. Just answering a message. So I'm gonna pull this screen back up here, okay? No, dip in America means snus, pouches, tobacco. And I was pretty sure that question was about that. Yeah, in the U.S., dip is usually means snus, basically, or chewing tobacco, one or the other. So no, I do not use it, nor do I recommend it. Okay, let's talk about everything. Yeah, but dip could be sauce for crisps, but I wouldn't say you use like sauce. I wouldn't ask like what type of sauce do you use? I don't know. I wouldn't do that. Anyways, this is the worst way to get derailed, okay? This is the worst way to get derailed. Where are we? Let's make sure this is working. Boom. Okay. This is what I want to start with. Scotty MT, do you think Braithwaite not going to the Euros would slightly work in our favor or not? I mean, it would make it easier. It would make it easier if we want to get him, but that's perfect introduction to what I want to talk about, because the first thing I want to talk about is defenders, right? And when I look at this, you know, let me swap my mouse over here so I can see it. When I look at this chart, you know, the obvious place where we're struggling a little bit is defenders. And and that is what I want to talk about first. The biggest high priority target continues to be, as I understand it, you know, Gerard Braithwaite. And as we've said a million times here, the discussion is going to be centered around whether or not, you know, Everton will come down on that fee to a reasonable level, somewhere in the range of 50-55 million. One of the main reasons for Braithwaite to come in or to be purchased would be that he can play both sides very competently. And partner Lissandro, as well as, you know, play in place of Lissandro. There's a lot of options there when it comes to Braithwaite. So still top target. The Athletic did an article kind of confirming that he was, you know, one of the main names on that list there. Behind him, if they did not get Braithwaite, it's a little tricky here, but I would gather that they would get Euro if he was possible, for sure. But otherwise, I think it's more likely we'll see a right center back come in instead of like another one. But following that as another kind of backup target here, obviously Lissandro then would probably be our starter. Inacio would be the next one. Inacio is someone that they've been watching for a long time now. I mean, over a year. Last summer, I was talking about Inacio, and I was thinking, I wonder if this is for next summer, because we've got all these center backs in here now. And, you know, I thought Inacio might be for later. And he is interesting now. He is somebody who, I didn't really know this until I was looking at it during my video earlier in the week, who was, he plays both sides. He's played both sides quite a lot in his career. I guess early on he started on the right. Now he's pretty much exclusively on the, and then he went kind of both, and now he's exclusively on the left. But similar to Braithwaite, I suppose he can play both sides. I think that the reason why Inacio, for me, I think you'd go like Braithwaite and then someone like Yoro Todibo, and then maybe moving further down the list, you would go to, you know, you'd go to an Inacio, is because Inacio, I don't think would be a good partner for Lissandro necessarily. I have concerns over, there's concerns over his tendency to pull out of duels, things like that. He's amazing in build-up, amazing on the ball. I would compare him a lot to, at least for me, not saying this is 100% correct, but I would compare him to Pau Torres. I really liked Pau Torres. Before we got Lisandro Martinez, I wanted Pau Torres for that left side to partner with a strong right center back. But Pau Torres is kind of similar to how I would see Inacio. Excellent passer, excellent on ball, excellent in build up, excellent in all of those aspects, but maybe weak in duels, and so I think that's the main issue. I think that's the main issue that I would see with Inacio. So I think it's more likely, ideally, that we see something like this. I think that's why we see something like this. And they've been in conversation and have had discussion with representatives of Braithwaite, Euro, Todibo, and probably Inacio as well. Inacio is represented by Bruno's agent, if I'm not mistaken, which is his brother-in-law. So, they've had, again, as I've sort of mentioned, parallel contacts. Rather than going one and then maybe the next and then maybe the next and then maybe the next, they've had parallel contacts. Tosin was looked at. And there was interest in him. You saw kind of the story saying, well, United this morning that United made contact, but it was too late. He'd already committed to Chelsea. Yeah and no. True and not true. It is true that Chelsea and Newcastle had already got in there, and Chelsea were already probably further ahead. But they also were not willing to match the wages of Tosin, and that is why that deal did not happen. So I think that is the main reason for that, and we'll talk more about the wages and the other aspects of that a little bit later. But I would expect if all goes well that that Braithwaite is still the one. Otherwise, Todibo, in there. That's what I would expect at this point in time. Euro still more likely to go to Madrid. But yeah, Euro is still more likely to go to Madrid. As I think anyway. And if they want him, he's going to go there. So that's the major issue with it. If they want him, he's going to go there. I think he'd be too expensive to buy alongside somebody else. I think he'd be too expensive to buy alongside a Braithwaite. So I think when they were looking at Tosin, the idea of getting two, if one was a free agent, was more viable, but without the free agent, then, without the free agent, then I don't know that they're going to have the money for two. I don't think that United bid for Euro, but I think there's some basic communications there that would say, hey, some basic communication there that would say, hey, we might be willing to do a deal around this type of price. What could you do? What is viable here? So, yeah, one of those, but I think Braithwaite is still the most likely at this point in time, though obviously we will see. The contacts continue. Braithwaite we will know before June 30th if that becomes viable or not. Yeah, with the talk of Johnny Evans potentially getting extended for a little longer, to me I look at that and I say, see, there's another left-footed center back who can cover on that side. So that's why I think it's Braithwaite, or you're talking about, yeah. I'm there's a lot of money that needs to be spent in a lot of areas, and I don't think it's necessarily viable to go and spend $100+ million on just the center backs. There's too much to do. So that's kind of the first place that I would see something happening. It has not been, we kind of whittled it down from Tosin, obviously, but I think that, one of the things, again, I will be very clear, is that United are talking about, these things. They are moving forward on these things. They are discussing things with all of these players and starting to go forward. I understand center backs are important. I think that Martinez, Braithwaite, Maguire would makes a great three that you can kind of put together. I do, and that would be nice. So yeah, we will see. We will see. And obviously I do think that once, the manager side of things is totally resolved, it'll make it a little easier to finalize these deals as they kind of press ahead with them. So there's more on the defense, isn't there? Because we flip back over to left back, and let's talk about left back. So last time we spoke about, you have adverts? It hasn't told me that any ads have played, but yeah, sign up for YouTube Plus or whatever the hell it's called. But yeah, we talked about this last time. He was on our list last time. Kirkis. So that's obviously been one that has been confirmed now that United are interested in. You've had 3 ads? You've had 2. Okay, all right. How long has it been? 20 minutes? That's not that bad. Deal with it. That's what I would say. Deal with it. Deal with it, or pay for YouTube Plus or whatever it is. Kirkes. Really good player. I don't know what his price would be. Fabrizio confirmed our interest in him. I had him in our greens from before alongside Ait Nouri. And yeah, I think that that is really one to keep an eye on, because my thinking on the left back situation, you've had 17. Oh my God. I got to stop getting too distracted again. But yes, my thinking on the left back, Malacia has not been in for the whole year, right? Luke Shaw has played 40-something% games. We need a left back to supplant Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw is very good, and he's so important when he's in. We need a left back that will be Luke Shaw's replacement. And I think Kirkes could be that guy. I really do. I think he could be that guy. I think he's a great player. And I think it would be worth the money. If you were to spend 40-50 on a center back, 30-40 on a left back like that, then you have this young team building that will develop for the future and will get better and better, that have that potential, that have that real potential. So that's what I hope for. I mean, if you had a Braithwaite or a Euro at center back in there with a Kirkes, you have a team that can become something really important in the future. I assume by you asking about Lacey, you mean Harry Amas. We've never seen him play any senior football, so we don't know. So that's what we need to see. That's where we're going, with this team, is building a strong, young core. And that's, I think, the most important aspect of this, is that the strategy moving forward with Ineos on this 3-year plan or 3-year project is to buy players who will be top players. And when I look at it with Shaw's injury, will he be a top player in 3 years? I don't know. I don't know if he'll even be able to play in 3 years with the injury issues that we've seen. And so I do think we need somebody who's going to be our starting left back in 3 years. We have a need now, and we will need that guy in 3 years. Parth Lapalikar. Can we do Braithwaite for 55 plus Todibo for 40? We could, but we would need to. We wouldn't really have much money to spend. We wouldn't be able to buy a left back. I think we spend that kind of money. We'd need some sales. We'd need to get good money for Maguire, like 35, 40 million for Maguire. That's going to be difficult. But yeah, we could. I think that would be more of a back plan, a backup plan. Yeah, Harry Amas might get a view in preseason, but you know, he has never played senior football. I'm not saying that he's not going to be really good, because he's viewed really highly. But eventually, what if you have Kirkus and Amas? I mean, that's not bad. And really, I would hope that we would... One of the things I do hope we get better at is loaning out players where they get actual game time when we're not ready for them, and then we can bring them back. You know, why not loan Harry Amas out for a year or two? Get Kirkus in, move on from Luke Shaw after that, and bring Amas back. Then you've got two great options. That's what I would like. That's what I would like. So defenders, I feel like still at the moment, this might be the most realistic. These are the overall plans. And we will get... I've got it on the list. We'll get to the next things next. Next, we're going to talk about midfielders. Next, I want to talk about midfielders. And again, like I said, like I have said a few times each video, I do want to be a little bit greedy on this so that I don't get too distracted like I do very, very easily. So donate if you want me to answer your questions, okay? Let's talk about midfielders. And before we talk about midfielders in specific, I want to talk about this, because obviously one of the names that has come up is João Neves, right? And he's been somebody United have been looking at and liked for a long time. The problem has always been price. Now, really interestingly, in Duncan Castle's podcast, what he said, what he talked with the guy from Record Sport in Portugal, and they said that, you know, Jorge Mendes brought an offer from United. One of the interesting things that I've heard, I think I've said these on the videos for some time, is that one of the ways Ineos have been pretty clever about keeping things quiet, especially as they don't have all their own people in place, is they've utilized a lot of third parties. Yes, I did say donate if you want me to answer your questions. They've used a lot of third-party advisors, and Jorge Mendes, I believe, is somebody that have spoken with on a number of occasions over the last year, even before getting in. Given that he represents a whole huge spot of the country, of Europe, you know, of Portugal, where United have been really poor at taking advantage of. King Roll, getting two CBs should be a priority. Todibo Inacio cheaper than JB. Fofana, Kirkes, and Olise is a very good window. Transfer fee realistic. Depends. Todibo and Inacio wouldn't be cheaper than Gerard Braithwaite at the price that they'd be willing to pay for Gerard Braithwaite. They'd be about the same. And Braithwaite is a much better player. I can see why it'd be a priority, but you could also go into next year and buy another center back. Just to make sure you can address every area of the team. Parth asks, so CB options, Martinez, new CB, Harry, and Victor. Let's say that's sort of the initial plan. Unless they get a good offer, you know, for Lindelof or Maguire. So basically, Jorge Mendes is somebody that they've spoken with a number of times. João Neves is somebody that they really like. The problem has always been the price, because 100 million euros is a lot of money. And I do understand there's some truth to that, them looking at it. And I'm not sure that offers are always in the same way that they're communicated. Blake Smith, thank you for that. If you had a message, try to send it afterwards. I'm not sure that, you know, the 100 million euros, 120 million price that they're naming is just impossible. United will spend money this summer, but they need it to be done right. They need it to be done right. They need the right fees for the right players, and I think that they're hoping to, you know, center back 50, midfielder 50, full back, you know, 30 to 40. That, if you can get really good players in those ranges, you know, if you look at what Manchester City generally did, for the most part, they were purchasing players in that 50 bracket, you know. They were purchasing players in that 50 bracket. And I think that that's sort of the strategy, is not paying over that for really good players and getting them in. So I think that's what you'll see, where you don't go crazy on these things. So yeah, João Neves is a real option. But let's go back to this and look at some of the other options, because, you know, if they can get for 50, then that would be obviously the ideal. If they can get it for 50, somewhere in that range, then that would be really good. But otherwise, the names that I'd be looking at are kind of what we discussed before. I'm not letting go of this because I think there is real interest in Yeoman. He was really good. Yesterday. I think some people are noticing. He's a really solid player who does the basics well, who would provide really good coverage, good in possession, good out of possession, does a lot of the things that you want, a good engine, all of that. And I think he's a great option there, and I think that there is definite interest from United. There is definite interest from United, and so they might be moving on to, we'll see if they can move on to him. Yeah, there are others like we discussed, but I think that those are two I would strongly keep an eye on. Those are two I would very strongly keep an eye on. And then behind that, obviously, we've talked before about Fofana being kind of a cheaper option, maybe a backup, but maybe a backup choice here. But yeah, these would be two names I would keep in mind. Yeah, I understand the concern with João Neves and whether he would match up with Kobbie Mainoo. I do, but I these are targets. This is the reality of it. These are targets, and then I think you move down the list to Fofana. Give me just a second. Let me just look up something here. My notes. And then the other name that I would not lose is João Gomez. Is João Gomez. I think from Wolves. He's a good solid player, all rounder. And I feel like when you're looking at these players, they're all solid players, all rounders. João Neves, Yeoman, Gomez. These are all solid players, and I still have a feeling it would be one of those three. But at the same time, yeah, getting a big player like Braithwaite into the back line, I think helps with any lack of size in the midfield. It also depends how you set things up. It depends how you set things up defensively, how you organize it. It's not buying one defender. It's buying a left back and a center back. That's two defenders. 1 + 1. That's two. And left back's where it's been a bigger issue, frankly. So, yeah, these are I think your kind of main options that continue being worked on here. And if you look at that, they're talking about João Neves, then you can see there's talk about left back and center backs being linked. Those three areas are, I would say, the areas where you're getting a lot of attention now. Yeah, let's I want to talk about this midfield thing a little bit because it's really interesting. We didn't always have a Roy Keane. Michael Carrick wasn't the fastest player. Michael Carrick wasn't the most physical player in some respects, but he was incredibly intelligent, and we were way better with Michael Carrick in the team, who just played the game with a lot of intelligence. Obviously, same with Scholes and players like that. We didn't always have, destroyers in there running around, smashing people about. There's intelligent play that allows you to cover properly and do things right. And Roy Keane was an all-rounder. Yeah, exactly. Roy Keane was an all-rounder as well. Very physical, obviously, but we had a lot of different players. It's about being intelligent. It's about positioning. It's about setting up the team right. There's so many ways to get away with it without needing, Anyway, I think people may pass too many specific judgments on players without necessarily understanding that. I understand he wasn't 5'6", but I'm more even talking about Yeoman. He's not somebody that has to be super fast. He is strong. He is physical. He's a very intelligent player, and I think would be quite interesting. There's a lot of good midfielders out there that intelligence is the biggest quality of a midfielder, in my opinion. You can make up for a lot by positioning well. You can make up for a lot by positioning well and getting in the right areas. So, you know. So yeah, that's kind of the, I think these are the, if we were to make 3 signings, I think it would be that midfielder, center back, and left back. And obviously Casemiro's got to go for all of that to happen. And on that front, with Casemiro, it's interesting. There was a story that, not story really, it came out pretty much directly from right from Sofian Amrabat's brother, and he kind of walked it back afterwards. But he said that Casemiro wasn't injured, that he was told he wasn't going to be selected, and then that day, and then dropped out of the team, didn't want to sit at the bench. He kind of walked that back and said some other things and what have you, but it's pretty obvious that is probably true, that there's at least some truth in that. I think I said this on a video a long time before him, or in one of the podcasts with Phil, but that, sorry, one second. Anyway, what am I doing? Yeah, that essentially Casemiro has been pretty unhappy at certain points in the season. He missed out on Brazil, which is a huge deal. For people who are Brazilian and for a lot of players on international teams. But he got dropped from Brazil really on the basis of, really just on the basis of not doing well. And he's been played out of position. He's been played in difficult positions. He talked about sacrificing to play at center back. And then the FA Cup final comes along and he's not in the team. And after playing at center back, and finally the center backs are healthy and he doesn't get to play in the midfield and he gets dropped for that big game. He didn't stick around to celebrate. He seemed very cold during and after the win. He flew off pretty much right away. There's been stories obviously talking to Ronaldo about going to Saudi, things like that. A lot of that is true for sure. And, so I think it's very likely he's going to leave. There's been a lot of difficulty, a lot of disagreements over everything that's going on and throughout the season, and it's been certainly problematic. He's clearly unhappy, and I think very likely to leave, and it probably doesn't help his transfer been the example used of bad business by United, and yeah, so yeah, there's what it is. So he's likely to go, and then I think we'll be able to kind of move on to another midfielder, but that is something that does need to be done. Sam Diamond, anything on Ederson from Atalanta? No, I've seen Liverpool linked a lot, but I have not seen much about United. I'm sure that they've looked at him, but nothing specific there. If we sold Casemiro for good money, certainly, and got the wages off, certainly it would help a lot with the budget this summer. Moving on to the wingers. So, there's a complication here, right? There's a complication here, which is that it's always been about whether they can get to that winger position because of a few factors. One, Jadon Sancho. You've had a few kind of conflicting stories from throughout the year, doubt about whether he'd want to return to England at all, whether he'd want to return to Manchester United at all. Macmillan YT. Griezmann been linked to United, wages would be huge. He hasn't been, but it would be not a bad one for me for a striker. The wages might be too big to make it make sense, though. Agreed. That would be a problem. You'd have to accept much more reasonable wages. And he's probably, I would say, maybe more likely getting them in the US, in the MLS, going and getting a big deal somewhere there. But United have to resolve the situation of Jadon Sancho, who may or may not want to return to England. You kind of had the opposite, and then you had, well, he would come back if Ten Hag isn't there. But does that really work either? That has to be cleaned up. Mason Greenwood has to be sold. The issue you have as well is Dortmund saying they can't really pay for Sancho. Now, whether that's negotiations or not, we'll see. Then you have Antony, who will probably need to be moved on to get another winger in there as well. So there's a lot of factors that are leading to, it's going to be hard to get to the winger situation right away. It's going to be difficult to get to the winger situation right away. So with Olise, Chelsea are obviously pushing really hard. Chelsea are trying to, push it forward and say, we want to get this deal done now. And they're putting things through to people. They're confident, they're this, they're that. And I'm not saying those things aren't true, but it also suits them in their best interests to rush here before we can get to that level of business, before we can really do something there. And but at the same time, Olise turned him down last year, signed a new deal with Palace. I understand his brother's at Chelsea. There's other reasons, he might want to go back there, but I would hope he waits and thinks more about the future because, I would hope that he waits, that he thinks more about the future before anything else. Before, moving forward. Yeah. Come visit South Africa, dude. It's in your blood. Thank you. And I do hope to someday. Appreciate that. So I don't think Olise, I'm not saying we won't get him, but we do have to resolve these things before we can move on Olise. And then as a potential backup, there is and has been looks at Desiree Doué. And I think that would be, that's a fucking weird comment to make, man. That is a fucking weird thing to say. Yeah, fuck, that was weird. Yeah, he's somebody that they're looking at as another potential forward if they decide to move in that direction. But we've got to resolve Greenwood and Sancho. And I'm not saying they have to be sold immediately, but something about their future has to be resolved in order to get that done, in order to be able to move, on a winger. Because we just have so many, and it's kind of a shame that we have so many, but none that are really ready, none that are really tops, none that are, outside of Rashford, Garnacho, and we don't have much going on there. And that's problematic. Amad Diallo, obviously we want to see him get some more minutes, but it's crazy how many wingers we have and how much money we have tied up in wingers and the inability to field a rotated team that isn't significantly weakened. So, yeah, that is part of the situation. So, where are we at here? Yeah, so we'll see. Wingers have to resolve. Now I want to talk about wages and Bruno. One of the things that obviously United are trying to do under Ineos leadership now is to improve on the overall wage structure because they've spent an enormous amount of money. There's been a lot of the wage bill has been crazy, especially considering, in general, you look at wages to performance and usually they should be around the same level. United have regularly been near the top of the wage bill with nowhere close to near the top of performance in England and in Europe. They've got to fix that. That is a huge focus in order to have money moving forward to get out of PSR in order to fix these things. And they don't want everybody on crazy wages. When you look at the players who are on the highest wages now, Varane's gone. Sancho's probably leaving, and that's one that they are not happy with that contract at all. Casemiro's likely to leave. The only other one is Marcus Rashford, who is a few years younger. But, that is a contract as well that they're looking at and saying this isn't great. And they've had discussions about concerns over that specific contract. So the issue is when you take Bruno, he's got 3 years left on his contract. He was... I don't think he was amazing all season, like some people have been saying. He was great in the last quarter of the season. He's a wonderful player. He's been very consistent over his United career, but he hasn't been amazing in this year or something where I would say he deserves a bump up to salaries. You go look at like Liverpool, for example. Bruno's already on high wages. He would be second highest wages at Liverpool right now based on base salaries. That's fine to me. There's nothing wrong with that. Mo Salah got a deal off of like Premier Leagues and record-breaking performances, one of the best goal scorers in Premier League history. Like, the wage structure doesn't need to be thrown out of whack just for no reason. Just because Rashford's is higher, which is a contract they're concerned about, and just because there's others who are higher who they're trying to get rid of, doesn't mean you've got to bump him up. You have to consider all those things. I think potentially a restructure where maybe there's more team-based incentives would be okay. Might be realistic, but that is a concern. They don't want to keep bumping it up because it also, if your starter, when you're not winning anything, is getting 300,000, then you're saying backups need 150, need 200. And, that's a problem. They don't want to be paying. Tosin is the example that I gave there. Tosin was offered 140 to 150,000 in wages. For a rotation player, that is too much. That's how you get in trouble. That's how you get in trouble financially. They can't be offering that. That's just not where they want to go. Amount is on, we've given wages away so much, and then players lack performances. You give Bruno a big increase and he has a down year, then what? Then we're back and saying, well, like once again, United giving out big wages, once again, contract we should have done. There's too much risk in that. I think it's okay for him to sit on a current contract, which is very good. And see where we are in a year. I think that's okay. They're not going to win just on wages. A lot of times United would be looking at winning against other clubs in regards to wages, and they don't want to do that anymore. They don't want to just have people join because they offered significantly higher wages, than anybody else. That doesn't really work. That's not the right thing. I think that if United can put together a really good, if United can do well on making purchases this summer, then and using the money smartly to build a strong team, that has a better effect on things. And I think, then Bruno could sit there and say, okay, we're good now, let's win things. And I would hope that would be where more of the focus is put on at this point in time. Building and rounding out the team. I understand looking at, build the team really well so we're competitive, and I think that Bruno will be happy. And I don't think either side wants a departure, but I don't think that they can give a contract increase there just because prior management has given out bad contracts. That doesn't make sense. You can't fix it that way. You have to acknowledge that these mistakes were made and not say, well, because mistakes were made in the past, we're going to keep making those mistakes. That's not logical to me. I didn't say we couldn't offer Tosin 140. I said that's not what they want to do, is offer 140 to a fourth or fifth choice center back. He's not better than Maguire, frankly, is the view, So, and you're buying another one anyway. Yeah, I think we gotta stick and hold the line and build the team out properly, and a lot of people will be happier. and then, you know, build in those team performances and things like that. But we could see, you know, if we go for Elise and we end up getting to that point in time and he joins Chelsea because they're offering 250,000 a week and we are only offering 150, so be it. You know, 175, so be it. One of the things that I think where sometimes failure, things that look like failure aren't, are when you make those kinds of decisions, let other teams make mistakes. Let other teams make mistakes for once. And let us do things the right way. So, you know, if we miss out on players because of wages this year, I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. I really don't mind it. If we're offering realistic wages that are good, that are solid, and they don't want to join because of that, okay. That's okay. And I think that that's something we have to accept and be okay with if we want to move forward. Once we're in a position where we're competitive at all levels, and we have a strong foundation, then you can start, you know, building on top of that. You know, then we should start building on top of that. We've needed to fix this for a long time, and so I'm okay with it. I really, really am okay with it. I understand that a lot, and it's and people take it as not rating Bruno. It has nothing to do with that. I wouldn't, if you ask me, you know, I wouldn't be giving anybody those, like, a 300,000 wage, because that's just not where we are. We've got to build things out. Yeah, and I think he's on good wages. I think he's on good wages. So, you know, I don't think they'll give a big increase on wages to him. Maybe they'll work something out. I think that maybe they wait till a little bit later in summer, get the business they get done, see where they stand financially, and then see, you know, where everybody is standing. It doesn't really matter if he should be our top earner, because the only reason he's not our top earner is because we've given out bad contracts. You don't fix that by giving out another bad contract. You just don't. It shouldn't necessarily be about the money. If it's because of the wage cut with Champions League, well, maybe play better in the Champions League. You know, Bruno had some bad games during our Champions League campaign. He had some bad games during the season too. Everybody's responsible. That's why it's built into their contracts. They're all getting a decrease. It's across the board. So, you know, moving on to this never-ending review. Let's see, what have I got here? Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. I don't think I'm missing anything. Cool. So, you know, obviously this review, right? I've spoken before about my thoughts on the review as a whole, about what they're really doing, what might actually be happening. And, you know, the new information, or the new kind of update to it, is that there's a lot of people and a lot of good sources now saying that it is this week, that it will be announced. Whatever is the outcome of this whole thing will be announced by the end of the week. Jamie Jackson said it yesterday. Matt Lawton from Times, extremely reliable, said it yesterday on Stretford Paddock. And I feel like somebody else said it too, or hinted at it as well. But I have definitely heard similar, that it's supposed to be this, you know, that, you know, it should be this week now. There's been no brief of it going into next week. Last week, by Wednesday, we were told it was going to not be finished this week. Romano, did Fabrizio hear as well? I didn't see it from him if he did, but it is expected now, very, very, very soon. Ten Hag has been away on holiday. I guess that means he's coming back, whatever, if that's been part of the holdup. The review, I don't really get it, what has taken that long, if it was not talking to other managers, which maybe it was. And you read the thing about their just high school debate thing? Yeah, sure. I told you why I didn't buy on that, and I think I'm on that whole story, and I think I'm correct in maintaining my stance on why I don't bite on that whole story. But anyway, the review is obviously there. Things that tie into it, financials, talks with other potential managers. I've heard nothing that would change the. I've heard nothing. Like I've heard no update that would change the prior information of Ten Hag likely being gone. There's nothing. There's been nothing. Nobody has had anything in this period of time to indicate that there's any difference. Okay, so that's not a new update. That is again the same. Nothing has changed. I've had nothing. So if something has changed over the last 2 weeks, I don't know. Nobody knows. Seemingly, nobody's really been given any indication that anything's changed. Nobody's been given anything. It's been extremely quiet. Everybody I've asked on this and looked at said, it's extremely quiet. That Ineos have been really good at keeping it under wraps, keeping everything under wraps. But a lot of people are looking at it, and I think it'll be Friday. I think it'll be Friday whenever this thing gets announced, whatever it is. I think it'll be Friday. That's my best inkling at the moment, is that it'll be Friday. A couple days ago, I said it's going to be at least a few more days. That was good info. It has been a couple of days. I think it'll be Friday. But I don't know what to think anymore, to be honest. I'm the information that I had before, I stand by that. But it's gone so long, I'm like, it's kind of crazy that I wouldn't be surprised if anything happens at this point. That's not information. That's my own sitting there like, it's so quiet. It's been so in the dark about this that nothing would surprise me at this point in time. But, those are good sources of information that said it would be this week. Those are good sources of information that said that. Those are reliable people that said that for sure. So I do think we'll get that kind of finality, and it's definitely needed because we have to get, we've been moving, but I think we need to finalize this in order to really get moving on our summer window. And I think a lot more has been happening than people believe. Wilcox, very busy. All that, very busy. If there's a manager change, I would still, my best guess, which is slightly informed information, would be Pochettino leading the race. It could be a reason for the delay simply because he wasn't available until right the final week of the year, and it was sort of a surprise. Obviously of interest, obviously admired, obviously they had discussions with him per the Telegraph and others. So there's been some hints in that direction. David Ornstein kept mentioning him in passing, which I never ignore when he does that. I'm not saying he is the front runner. I'm just, that's my reading of that information. If there's a change, Thomas Frank, someone they like. Thomas Tuchel. I feel like it's going to be one of those three. Frankly, if there's a change, I do feel like it'll be one of those three. So, yeah, let's see. We should know. It is kind of crazy to me. I think the thing about it, and I was listening to Matt Lawton, who said this as well, is if they were going to keep Ten Hag and he was going to stay, why does it take so long? You can just say he's staying, even if you want to agree a new contract, then you could discuss that over the next month or so. You could just say he's staying and contract discussions will be taken in due course. I don't think they've had any contract discussion. Why couldn't they just say it? Why couldn't they say it last week if that was what was going to happen? I don't see any reason. That they couldn't say it. What they want, again, as I've said before, here's one of the things I do want to say. This is one of the things I want to mention, okay, that I do want to talk about on this front. They've already briefed that his position is being reviewed. They would need to say something about the result of that. They would need to say something about the result of that. Poch couldn't win a title with PSG, except he did. So I don't know. That's a sort of just a nonsensical statement. He did win a title with PSG. He did win league. I don't know what you guys... I think some of you have a weird thing in your brain. You just repeat things you've seen on Twitter that just aren't true. Like, whether you rate him or not, it's just not a true statement. It's very weird. He joined in the mid-season and didn't win. A mid-season that Tuchel got sacked in too. So, have some perspective on it. The thing with the manager is that it's not people. I've said this before, but people always keep talking about results. They keep talking about results. They keep talking about winning this, winning that, winning this, losing that. And I've maintained it's never been that. That has not been the case. It's always been. It has always been about the best fit for them moving forward for the next 3 to 5 years. That is the biggest consideration. And one of the biggest concerns with Ten Hag in general is whether he's someone they can work with. And the other factor that is a big concern has been communication and the dressing room and, the work with players, whether he's getting through to people and whether he can build a unified team. That is a serious concern, and there are plenty of doubts with that. And if he were to be sacked or if he were to depart, it would not be so much about results, but it would be about that aspect. About difficulties and problems with actually getting his ideas across and working within the structure in the way that they want. That would be where there are bigger concerns. There have been a lot of issues with players, a lot more than advertised. There just have. And you can say, well, that's just the players, except a lot of the players that there's been issues with have never had issues of anything but being ultimately extremely professional through their entire career. That's a concern. And to write it off and say that doesn't matter, it's just not correct in the modern day and in the football world. You just can't do that. You just can't have those issues. And so that is a major concern. That is probably, to me, if he were to depart, would be the main reason is just the issues in building and working together as a team that hasn't gone well. Saying if Poch is the option, that means Ineos chose a non-possession based style. Again, I think people just repeat things that aren't true. Pochettino usually has quite high possession. I think one of the higher possessions in the league over the course of his time. Thomas Tuchel is very flexible, can pay possession style if you want him to as well. Tubby, blink twice if Anthony's staying, Rhodes. Thank you for that. I gotta not blink the rest of the video. I'll try. Anyway, look, there's obviously going to be huge different opinions on all of this. Totally different opinions on all of that. But sometimes people say some crazy stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know who's the best. I don't know that Poch is better. I don't know that Tuchel's better. I don't know that anyone is better. What I do know is that what they're going to choose is likely going to be based on who fits what they want more, and who fits what they want within their structure, and someone that they feel is a builder and a unifier, and I think that is important. And so if they feel like Ten Hag can do that, he has a chance to stay. But if they don't, then that would probably, that to me is going to be the main reason for if he were to depart, it would be concerns over that, rather than results. And I've maintained that for a long time, and it continues to be my view on it is about that more than anything. And that's why I don't like to get into the discussion about the winning, the losing, how bad, how good, the injuries, the this and that. It's because to me, you could debate that to the end of time. You have other issues that are more likely there. I haven't heard much on Roberto De Zerbi in a long time. I know he's somebody that people liked, but I haven't heard anything. And, the short list that was put out before the FA Cup by a lot of journalists was McKenna, Tuchel, Poch, and Frank. McKenna's off the table, so I'm sticking with the concept that if there's a change, it's those other three people. Yeah. So that's all I got. Don't know what to say. That's where I am. I don't really have anything else. There's not really been anything different. There's like I said, there's good people who've said that that the review will end. Hopefully, we all can get an answer and move on, because I'm tired of debating it. I'm tired of talking about it. Yeah, I saw that. Of course, the Ten Hag payout is a little bit higher. It's still a drop, I believe, from the original one, because he's got Europe. It's 2 million. If that's the reason why they can't do it, that doesn't really add up to me. If that would be, that can't be the reason you stick with a manager or not, is 2 million, because the risk versus reward is huge here, in your assessments. And I would be very disappointed in them if they let that be a factor either way. You can't tell a manager they're staying because it costs 2 million more to sack him. That's a horrible way to work out the relationship. So if I get something about when the announcement is coming, if I don't know what the nature of it would be or how it would be done, then I will for sure share it. For now, I'm expecting it tomorrow. Until reliable people tell us it's delayed again, I'm expecting it tomorrow at this point in time. So that is what I've got. If there's any questions, I'll leave it open for any, donations or anything in the last couple minutes here. Otherwise, I'm going to end it, as it's been about an hour, and move on with our lives. And hopefully, if something comes out tomorrow, then maybe I'll be live again to go over it. If I can swing it, if something does come out tomorrow, it might come out in the middle of the night for me. I mean, do I have to? I don't know. I'm considering. I'm like, do I have to wake up at 2 a.m, because sometimes these things come out at 9 or 10 a.m. in the UK. Do I have to be up at 2 a.m. to get an update? Maybe. I don't know. These are summer can be extremely annoying. Summer can be extremely annoying for me as an American on the time zones, trying to get and share things, at the right time. So, cool. All right. That's what I've got. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being a part of this. Thank you all for watching this video. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully something happens. Otherwise, I'm sure we'll be talking tomorrow either about news or about delays. So either way, we'll have something. Thank you all. And I will speak to you all later. See ya.